All right, so listen, WillE has uploaded a video today, a really good video, I think. It's going over the biggest known class changes in Phase 2, and Phase 2 comes out in less than 2 weeks. We could see a really, really strong, a really profound meta shift. Right now, the meta is a certain way in Black Fathom Deeps, but it's going to be totally different between 25 and 40. People get new spells, new abilities, new runes. And so even this video is not going to comprehensively cover everything because we don't even know what the new runes are going to be, which have a huge impact. But there's a lot we can already sort of predict and talk about, and let's do it.
We will be in Phase 2 of Season of Discovery, and there are so many things to look forwards to. The new Gnomeregan raid with all its updated bosses and loot, the inevitable chaos of the STV.
STV is going to be insane.
And of course, a whole host of new runes to get excited about. Today though, I wanted to think about how us leveling up to 40 will affect our classes, both through our baseline abilities, as well as new talents that we'll have access to.
Do you guys think that every single class is way more fun to play at 40 than at 25? Yeah, I do. Yeah, I do. I think that every single class is more fun at 40.
Level 25 bracket will end up being the most restrictive one for us by far. And just getting to level 40, even without the new runes, would see big power increases for many classes. And no, this isn't going to be a speculation video for future runes, because we really have no idea, so I'm just not going to worry about that too much. Okay, maybe I'll speculate about once or twice, but it's not going to be what the video is all about. But even discounting new runes, I want to show you a little bit of how each class will be getting far more powerful, with our current runes, known abilities, and talents moving up to level 40. But first, a quick word from today's sponsor, Marvel Strike Force.
Who is it? It's Marvel Strike Force.
RPG that immerses players in epic battles.
I'm going to use promo code WillE for Marvel Strike Force.
Supervillains, all set in the expansive Marvel universe. In Marvel Strike.
If you guys are looking for a get-rich-quick scheme, the answer is make a mobile game. Just literally just learn to code and make a mobile game. You will become a millionaire.
Force you power up your favorite characters by
we as a community should make a mobile game. We would become rich.
Versus others in real-time PvP events. Of course, you can recruit a whole host of iconic characters from across the multiverse. And if you're a new player, you can unlock 17 characters within the first 30 days, including...
I saw a map, like an image of all of the Marvel cinematic movies that have come out over the last 15 years or so. And I was looking at, and it's like 25 or 30 movies in the MCU is what they call it. And I was looking at them. I've seen like 3 of them. I've seen so few of them. Do you guys think that I should take the time to watch every single MCU Marvel movie? Because I feel like I'm probably not missing a whole lot.
Tons of them.
Maybe I am. Maybe they're awesome.
Such as Spider-Man,
maybe
Deadpool,
they're awesome.
Captain America,
Who knows?
and loads more.
Okay.
On top of that, new characters are regularly added to the roster. The most recent ones being the symbiote versions of Silver Surfer and Ghost Spider. The meta is constantly changing in the game too, and new ways to battle are frequently added to the list of game modes. There's a campaign, of course. There are arenas, but also alliance wars, raids, and plenty of PvP events as well. Marvel Strike Force also has a unique way of introducing new characters by running polls. So you can have a say in the future of the game, and you also get some in-game rewards for...
On every single one of these videos, you see there's always some YouTube chatter at the bottom that's like, oh, I can't believe that WillE sold out. Oh, he has an ad. He has a mobile game ad in his video. It's like, bro, shut up. Shut up. It's a 45-second ad in a 22-minute video. WillE's got bills to pay. Streamer just like you got to make money somehow. You got to pay for your whatever you spend money on in your life. I don't know. You got to make money to spend on your Funko Pops.
Doing so as well. With a constantly expanding
Funko Pops aren't free
and tons of in-game rewards, it's a great time to start. You can also
cocaine and
unlock
hookers. There you go.
Costumes from Marvel movies, TV shows, comics, and more. For a limited time this month, if you use the QR code or click the link in the description, you'll unlock exclusive characters for free by logging in.
There you go. We
Celebrate the release of Marvel Studios Echo by unlocking Echo for free. Marvel Strike Force's 3rd character poll is also underway, where the top 2 choices will become members of the upcoming alpha flight.
I also feel like if I'm reacting to WillE's video and I skip the ad, I totally could skip the ad, right? I could skip it and we could just keep on reacting. I feel like that's a dickhead move though. If we're going to react to WillE's video, we should watch his sponsor. I'm not going to skip it. That's a dickhead thing to do.
Team. Also, don't forget to use promo code CARDS for additional in-game rewards.
We can wait.
Thanks to Marvel Strike Force for the sponsor today.
We can wait.
Let's get back to WoW.
Okay,
Warlock
back to
first.
WoW.
So if you played the whole demonology tank thing so far this season, I'm sure you felt the burn of not having real AoE threat.
Yes,
there is
I
Shadow
have felt
Cleave,
that.
but it's just not very good, is it? So you end up tabbing and spamming Searing Pain. Now, I've seen plenty of comments over Phase 1 saying, wouldn't it be cool if demonology had some kind of immolation type aura effect?
Yeah, they should let us have that.
Wrath of the Lich King.
Yeah.
I have to say, I'm not sure Blizzard wants to give each tank good access to single target and AoE threat as part of a design choice this season. But
they should let us do that.
Even if we don't get a rune that does an immolation aura type effect, we already have it in the game. Kind of. It's learned at level 32, and it's called Hellfire.
So if you're casting Hellfire, 1, you're doing damage to yourself, 2, you can't move, you are immobile, 3, you can't dodge attacks. If you are casting or channeling a spell, you can't dodge or parry or block or anything. You're just going to get hit every single time. So Hellfire is not exactly the best metamorphosis tanking Warlock AoE ability. It's maybe not the most awesome thing. If there was a rune that tweaked it, so it's like if there was Hellfire and you could toggle it on and toggle it off, and if it's toggled on, you can move around and it does damage to you, but it's not a channel. Like, you could have Hellfire toggled on and then also cast another spell. A good comparison would be, have you played Retail WoW and Warlocks have the ability Fel Rush? Make Hellfire work like Fel Rush, okay? Where you toggle it on, and you can cast other stuff. You can move around. You're taking damage, but instead of making you move faster, it would do the AoE damage cloud, fire cloud, like it normally does. That'd be fine, maybe, I guess. I don't know.
The Warlock channels over 15 seconds, causing 87 fire damage to themselves and all targets around them. Now, if we combine that with the intensity talent in the destruction tree, you avoid 70% of all spell knockback effects, which is already pretty good. But if we add a concentration aura on the Alliance on top of that, you can reach spell knockback immunity, and the same can even be achieved on the Horde side.
Is it additive? I forget. I feel like at some point I probably knew this. Can you just take the 70% plus the 35%? You're at 105, easy clap. Or is it 35% of the? I don't know, I forget.
Now, if you keep Earth Shield up all of the time, in other words, you can just run into a bunch of mobs and sit there full channeling a Hellfire, and as long as there are no interrupt or stun effects, it's just gonna go through. And if there are, well, you can bring a free action potion and avoid that quite easily.
I guess it must be.
But wait till there is more. So the Pyroclasm talent has a chance to add a stun onto Hellfire. Now, apparently this percentage chance for it to stun is once per channel, not per tick. Not so sure about that myself, but it still seems decent though.
If that's true, that
bit is when we have
that feels bad.
Runes though. So if you precasted an Incinerate on pull into a Lake of Fire, you're doing 65% bonus fire damage. This means Hellfire will go from 87 a tick to about 144. This means over 15 seconds, it'll be doing over 2,000 damage baseline. Sounds like a pretty nice setup for dungeons when you're gonna be...
Or like giant dungeon boosting or gold farming,
running these runes anyway. You just do need to respec into destruction a little bit. Are there issues with this then? Well, there's 2 of them which I can see, yes. The first one up is, you guessed it, spell ranks. Rank 1 Hellfire is learned at level 32.
Oh
Rank 2
no, it's
is rather
42.
painfully at 42. And rank 2 increases the base damage from 87 to about 144. If we had rank 2 with the extra fire runes active, it would be ticking for 238 a second, which would be completely insane. The second issue is, the extra fire damage you deal is probably going to also mean extra fire damage which you take as Hellfire ticks. Sure, you're going to be doing a lot of AoE damage to everything around you, but you're also going to be face tanking at the same time. Still, with this, you should definitely be holding AoE threat, and it'll give the healer something to do, won't it? Next up is Mage. Mages are already doing unreal things in...
I think that dynamic is more of like a gold farming or like dungeon boosting thing versus this is really good for tanking raids. I think not.
Dungeons with their new toolkit. Regeneration, Living Flame, and Living Bomb are allowing them to effectively pull over 100 mobs in dungeons and straight up face tank them.
How did the classic dev team look at mages as they have been in classic WoW for the last couple of years? We've had mages doing giant Maraudon pulls, Zul'Farrak pulls, soloing fucking Strat Undead, and Blizzard unironically they're like, okay, we know how good mages are at AoE already. I feel like they took a hit of a crack pipe. All right. I'm looking at how mages are. We're going to give them self-healing and more AoE damage. That's what we're going to do. And then they did it. And then they did it.
And whilst healing through their damage, due to how the power of their heals scale directly from the number of mobs that there are. And this is classic mage too, so there is no diminishing returns for AoE effects after hitting a certain number of enemies. You could be hitting 100 or 1 million enemies. Your abilities do the same damage. No wonder they changed this in TBC, by the way. But we aren't in TBC, we're in vanilla,
no, we're
so
not.
mage is doing crazy.
Chat, do you think that they should take the TBC AoE cap and inject it into Season of Discovery? Should Season of Discovery have an AoE damage cap like we had in TBC? And the entire chat, every single person is spamming no, and we have identified all of the mage players. It's weird. Every single person posting in my chat is a mage main. Now we know who plays mage. Okay, let's go.
This stuff is very much in flavor. I also think Living Flame at the moment kind of goes to show you why when Blizzard did give Discipline Priests Atonement, they never gave them any extremely powerful AoE effects. So what I want to see at 40 is just how far can people take this. At the moment at 25, we don't really have too many dungeons to test, and people just tend to boost or farm Ragefire Chasm or the Wailing Caverns. But by 40, we'll have Razorfang Crawl,
there's going to be a lot to do,
assuming it's open, parts of Alderman, and parts of Razorfen Downs. But the biggest potential for money making is definitely in Zul'Farrak. Back in 2019, Classic Zul'Farrak was one of the go-to farming spots for mages.
Yes,
specifically the zombies that spawned in the rooms with the graves as you ran over them. Now the mobs that are
that'll be a
level
phase 3 thing, though.
to 44, so it's probably not going to work too well, especially since they're going to hit way harder and will have a much higher chance to resist spells. But their drop table for BOEs due to their level is going to be extremely good. There's also a chance the anti-boosting and gold farm changes are in the game from Season of Mastery 2, which if you didn't know made these Zul'Farrak zombies just drop less stuff in general because, well,
that's probably
way too good. Either way, whilst mages may have to go back to kiting mobs instead of face tanking elites, I kind of want to see how far they'll be able to push this new playstyle once we hit level 40. Maybe you even take a duo into Zul'Farrak, it could really be that good. For Priest, I don't have too many things to say really. My biggest hope for the phase is that Shadow Priests do start to come online, but for it to really do that, it both needs better mana efficiency as well as some better scaling through stats.
Yeah, like Shadow Priests, they need a lot. They are one of the lowest performing DPS specs in the game right now in Season of Discovery. They need some Giga Rune. They need some real good runes to make this work, I think.
I've said it before, but Shadow Priests really gain a whole bunch through talents between 25 and 40.
That is also true.
Shadow Weaving can stack up a plus 15% damage debuff on an enemy, Darkness is flat 10% more damage, and of course Shadow Form is a further 15% on top of that. But if you gave Priest straight up 40% more damage to all Shadow spells right now, as we are at the moment, they would probably move towards the middle of the table.
Like I said, they are down bad. They are really bad.
For PvE, whilst becoming completely insane in PvP, so it's gonna be a tough balance. I think an ability next phase not to sleep on is actually Mind Control. You get it at level 30 and it works on mobs up to level 44. We already know Noma's gonna be the new raid, and I'll bet just like BFD, it has a bunch of new humanoid mobs inside, and they may well have some crazy buffs or debuffs that can be abused through Mind Control.
I could see Blizzard ripping out a lot of the mechanical mobs in Gnomeregan, because mechanical mobs are just like kind of not fun. They can't be poisoned, they can't be bled, they can't be drained life. I think if Gnomer is a super mechanical mob heavy raid, I think people are going to be very tilted by it.
And Mind Control has had a role in raiding here and there throughout Classic already. You can get a fire resist buff from Upper Blackrock Spire, which is super useful when taking on Ragnaros to reduce damage taken, and Smelt Elementium, needed for Thunder Fury, is from a goblin that you have to Mind Control inside a Blackwing Lair.
Imagine being the guy to figure that out. Imagine you are the guy, you're that guy that says, hey, can I try mind controlling the goblin? Do you guys mind if we... And then it's like, whoa, bro. And then, whoa, he teaches the ability to smelt Elementium? That's crazy. Imagine you're that guy.
It should be interesting to see what new interactions this spell can have with the new content though. Next is Druid, and what I want to talk about is Star Surge. If you thought this ability was annoying this phase, just wait until Boomies have all their talents by level 40. One thing it does say on the tooltip is that Star Surge benefits from most effects related to Wrath or Starfire, but I'm assuming it's just worded like this, so it's not intended to double dip from talents which affect both of those spells. Among other things, Moonkins will of course get Moonkin form, which is okay in vanilla. Honestly,
do you see this guy? Look at this. I want you to remember this face. This is the face of the top G of Phase 2. The top B, the top Boomkin. This is the god of Phase 2.
It's more of a absolute PvP talent. It grants 3% spell crit to party members, not the 5% it did in TBC, as well as granting 360% bonus armor contribution from items. Also, you can't cast utility restoration spells in Boomkin form, and it has no mana regen effects directly tied to it. But aside from that, on the talent tree for buffing up Star Surge, you have Moon Fury, which is just going to give you 10% more damage. Vengeance, increasing the critical strike damage bonus by 100%, so it will deal 2 times damage instead of 1.5 when it crits. And improves Starfire, which will give Star Surge a 15% chance to stun for 3 seconds. So Druids at 40 will now be casting
it's gonna be badass.
42-yard range, 2 times crit modifier, 15% chance to stun instant cast nuke, which will cost about 10 or 12 mana with a 6-second cooldown. That sounds pretty...
God, that sounds so based. I can't wait.
Good to me, actually. Also at 40, Druids get some pretty key abilities for general use too. Dire Bear Form is just a bear form but better in all aspects. Feline Grace is your safe fall effect so you don't get knocked out of Prowl from full damage. And you get Innovate too, which no doubt your arcane mages will be informing you that they need off cooldown. The Rogue has a bunch to look forwards to as we head towards 40, including baseline abilities such as Safe Fall, Cheap Shot, Kidney Shot, and Blind. It's kind of your whole PvP toolkit you've been missing during phase.
I'll say this, maybe I'm totally off base. I feel like Rogue Tank is not so popular. I never see a Rogue Tank. I never see anyone talking about Rogue Tank. I just feel like it's not... I guess what I'm trying to say is I feel like no one cares. I feel like Blizzard offered tanking to rogues and rogues just kind of didn't care about it. Like the rogue community just kind of doesn't care about it. Like maybe it's something that people that want to play rogue, maybe they just don't want to tank. They just kind of don't care about it, right? That's kind of how it feels. I don't ever see anyone complaining about it. I don't hear rogues saying, I wish I could tank, but it's just not good for this reason or that reason or that reason. I just never hear anyone talking about it at all. Yeah, so I think maybe the mind of a rogue player is just someone that wants to pump and stealth around, and I don't know.
He's one.
They don't want to take. They don't care about it.
Pretty good in PvP at level 25 somehow, so they're going to be monsters at 40. For the rogue tanking identity, it's worth bringing up that as we begin to progress into these later dungeons and raid tiers, Blizzard started to really enjoy just putting stuns all over the place. And as a tank, usually getting stunned is bad, but for a rogue tank where you're far more reliant on mitigation rather than high armor to reduce damage taken, it's extra bad. So whenever you do take a stun and you're tanking a bunch of stuff, your damage taken is going to spike way harder than other tanks. Now, unfortunately, your PvP trinket doesn't remove stuns because different PvP trinkets do different things in vanilla. But if you're heading into a particularly dangerous pack or are looking to pull quite a bit, free action potions will go a long way to keeping you in the fight and not just sitting there in a stun taking way too much damage. Free action potions themselves are fairly cheap and will remain a consumable that's used throughout the entire game, so it never hurts to have a few of them with you.
Do you think free action potions will go up in price as time goes on? I think so. If you're looking for a reasonable investment to make, probably buying FAPs.
Also, we don't know if rogue tanks are going to get any form of AoE or an ability to allow ease of swapping combo points. And it's kind of similar to what I said about the locked tank. Blizzard don't seem to want every tank to have good AoE and good single target, but rogue at the moment really is just a pure single target tank. But for rogues to truly be the best on single target, they're going to need some insane threat generation to make up for the fact they're going to be constantly having to tab. And then there is the off chance that in Gnomeregan, a lot of things are immune to bleeds and poisons, such as the
That's a
ring full of
problem.
elementals where you usually jump down, as well as, well, mechanical stuff in general. It may be time to break out the daggers and hope that Slaughter from the Shadows gets some more supports so you can play a proper dagger build in this next level bracket. Whatever happens though, I can see rogues opting into playing combat from here on out though, unless there is some insane poison build that warrants going assassination. Blade Flurry and Adrenaline Rush are kinda just too good, and they only get better the shorter encounters are, and from what we've
You could have a rune, maybe for both warriors and rogues or something, or maybe warlocks would have this too, that like allows you to use poisons, bleeds, drain life on monsters that otherwise would be immune to those effects. That could be a rune, but I personally, I think that's kind of a boring rune. I think that is an anticlimactic rune to add.
seen in BFD.
Or you could put it on a consumable. You could have a consumable that allows you to bleed otherwise non-bleeding mobs. You could do something like that. Who knows?
So far, and well, from how Classic usually is in general, I'm expecting some pretty fast encounters. Next we have Hunter, supposing they haven't been successfully nerfed out of the game by Phase 2, that is. Maybe it's just that Phase 1 Hunter was all about beast mastery, but Phase 2 will be with marksmanship, and its abilities that scale with weapon damage will start to come online. But BM in Phase 2 really has a lot of things to be excited about. First up, you get a whole new pet which you couldn't access in Phase 1, the Gorilla. Elder Mistveil Gorillas, those are the ones just outside of Booty Bay, are level 40 and have Thunderstomp rank 2, which is a big AoE ability. Unfortunately, however, in Classic it has a 1-minute cooldown. Perhaps we get Rune of the Gorilla, where its cooldown is reduced massively and it becomes your big AoE ability alongside Explosive Shot. Because looking at pets so far, such as Scorpid and Wind Serpent, having big focus spenders that do magic damage has been a pretty good thing so
1 month from now, you're going to queue a Wrath. You're going to be level 40. You're going to queue a Wrathy Basin, and there's going to be 7 hunters in the opposite team, and you're going to be running into Blacksmith, and there's going to be 7 gorillas charging you. There's going to be monkeys everywhere. It's going to be gorilla madness.
So far.
At
But all the same,
Blacksmith.
BM's talents next phase are going to be huge. It could be that all these hunter nerfs Blizzard have been doing have just been in preparation of the power they will receive next phase. So with the future talents, your pet will have 15% bonus critical strike chance, 30% extra attack speed, 20% bonus focus regen, as well as Bestial Wrath as your final talent. And Bestial Wrath causes your pet to deal 50% bonus damage and be CC immune for 18 seconds.
That is scary.
So yeah, even though hunters have
Scary
been getting
ability.
nerf after nerf this phase, assuming pets still scale
It's going to
as
be
well
bananas.
as they currently do, I'm expecting some pretty crazy performance next phase. Oh, and
I think
also
so.
a little side note for hunters. If Blizzard can make a rune for Mongoose Bite for the melee hunter, so the ability is not legitimately a waste of gold to train, that would be great. Next we have Shaman, and in phase 1 the tanking
That's a good
spec
point.
has been amazing, but the other class identities have not quite been keeping up. I think Elemental has to be one of my top picks for a spec that should improve the most between
This is true. Elemental is like one of the top 3 or 4 specs that need to get buffed going into phase 2. Elemental is very, very underwhelming, and I wish it wasn't, because I think it's fun to play. It just is not good.
25 and 40. All the things at the bottom of your talent tree are just amazing. You'll be getting bonus range on Lightning Bolt and Chain Lightning, 100% bonus crit damage from Elemental Fury, taking you up to a 2x modifier, and this talent is also worded to include fire spells too. So this is going to affect your Lava Burst. Lightning Mastery will reduce your main spell's cast times, and of course Elemental Mastery for the big double crit this spec is famous for. Also, Elemental is one of the best placed specs in the game in terms of spell ranks, assuming that there's nothing being done about having poor spell ranks, that is, but rank 7 of Lightning Bolt is earned at 38, and rank
That's
2
good.
of Chain Lightning is at 40. This is literally about as good as it gets for being a caster.
That's
and on
huge.
top of that, Blizzard buffed Overload to have a 50% proc chance, which is a crazy high number for all the abilities it affects. And don't forget, as a Shaman, you'll be getting Chain Heal, and that can proc off Overload too in Season of
Also
Discovery.
40.
And do you know when you learn Chain Heal? Level 40, so it's
There's a chance maybe Resto and also Ellie Shamans might be goated next phase.
perfect
This
spell
is
rank
actually really good.
wise. In fact, with Ancestral Guidance converting 100% of healing to damage, Restoration Shaman might even have these weird burst windows on certain bosses. Imagine the turtle boss in BFD. If after the shield breaks you stack everyone up and then just sent in 5 or 6 chain heals, with Ancestral Guidance and Trolls Berserking active, it would actually be doing quite a bit of damage back to the boss. For Enhance, of course, the thing you're all looking forwards to is Wind Fury weapon, giving you a chance to gain 2 extra attacks.
That's it.
And there is kind of also a soft confirmation there will be a rune to push 2-handed enhancement too. There's even been things data mined such as the new automatic crown pummeler from Noma, which should be usable as well. I just hope Enhance gets a bit more in terms of new damage dealing abilities as well, and that Stormstrike sees a buff in some way, because its current version in vanilla is really weak. All in all though, Shamans are looking to get a lot of fun toys next phase, and that's with or without us knowing the new runes. And now we get to the Paladins. Now Holy for healers is a bit on the weaker.
I've been queuing a lot of War Sun Gulch lately. Red Paladins do so much damage. I cannot believe how hard Red Paladins slap
side at the moment, but I swear it's not far off from being a crazy good healer in Season of Discovery. Next phase, you'll be getting Illumination in your talent tree, meaning spell crits restore all of the mana that you spent on them. What will really decide Holy Pallies, though, is if Blizzard decide to give them a rune which actively does healing, such as Divine Radiance, Light of Dawn, Divine Light, something like that. At the moment, you can duplicate a bunch of heals thanks to Beacon of Light, but you're stuck casting these not very good classic spells. If you get a good rune alongside Beacon, Holy Pally stonks will go up fast. Holy Shock remains super underwhelming in Classic, however. They had to massively increase its damage and reduce its cooldown for Shock of Them to be a thing in TBC. Blizzard would have to make a rune to push
still, it
this
wasn't even
talent
really a
way
thing in
beyond its
TBC.
capabilities at the moment.
I have to say, like, Shockaden. People treat it like it's one of these legendary specs of the game. Shockaden has never been good. Shockaden has like never ever in TBC it was not good, in vanilla it was not good, in Wrath it is not good. It's never really been good, right?
What I also want to see is whether tank paladins actually start to play prot and pick up consecration, and the determining factor is really going to be, will stuff in the raid actually be doing damage, or can you get away with being a rep pally that puts on Righteous Fury and just DPSs? Because in BFD, Palatanks are doing exactly this. Also, consecration is just, I mean, it's bad. Like, it's really bad. You can learn rank 3 at level 40, and it does 192 damage baseline over 8 seconds for 320 mana. Remember when we were talking about Warlocks earlier, and how 1 tick of Hellfire could do 144 damage? Assuming it scales with the runes, that is. That's quite a big difference. This is kind of the thing about tanking in Classic though, it's all about threat, not mitigation. There is literally a handful of fights in the game that we know of at least where you must gear primarily for mitigation. The rest of the time you just generate as much threat as possible so your DPS don't have to stop what they're doing. We would need some real tank buster bosses in Nomagun for tanks to, well, start tanking properly. The final...
Okay, let me ask you guys. Do you want tank buster bosses? Is that fun for tanks? Because of course you can make a tank buster boss, but should they? Do the people want tank buster bosses? I'm seeing a lot of people say, yeah, I like to have bosses that hit hard. Yeah, I think when I'm tanking, I sort of have this class fantasy of like, when I'm tanking, I like to be a tank. I like to feel strong. I like to feel thick. Okay, I like to be a chonker. And the whole, I know in vanilla WoW the whole meta is dual wielding tanks, and it's for a TPS situation. But I'd rather the tank, when I'm playing a tank in accordance with my class fantasy of how a tank should play, I would rather focus on mitigation. I'd rather focus on staying alive and being beefy than maximizing my damage and my TPS. Beefiness is more in accordance with my personal class fantasy of what a tank is and how a tank should play versus TPS. But of course, it's a totally subjective opinion, right?
Another thing I want to see from Paladin's next phase is if anything new can be found with the Reckoning talent for PvP or PvE. So honestly, this is one of the most complicated talents in the game and has a bunch of rules which the game does not inform you of in any way whatsoever, such as losing rec stacks when mounting, and not even being able to see how many stacks you have. Thanks for that, Blizz. It's always been a fun talent in PvP though, especially when you fight someone that deals many small crits, such as a rogue or feral druid, and then you can just turn around Hammer of Justice, unleash the Rex stacks and one-shot them. Last but not least is the Warrior. So first, I have my tinfoil theory on why Warrior is going to be getting Titan's Grip next phase. So the data mined automatic crowd pummeler, which we looked at earlier, specifically has classes that can use it on its tooltip, and it excludes Warrior.
You know what? I've seen enough. I think he's right. I know where he's going with this. I think he's right. Why would they exclude Warrior from automatic crowd pummeler? I think because they're getting Titan's Grip. That's what I think.
Why would it do that? Because if you had Titan's Grip, you could put this on your offhand, and whenever it comes off cooldown, you could activate a 50% attack speed buff for 30 seconds. This would be unbelievably broken, perhaps even too overpowered for the Warrior class. Just imagine a 50% attack speed buff on demand with all the flat damage increases you have. We don't even know what new weapons there will be next phase, but judging by what we can get at the moment, I think we can assume they're going to be really powerful. Of course, this is just a theory based off a data mine, but yeah, this could be happening. Secondly is that depending on bleed...
Now, you know what's crazy is that I've seen a lot of Warriors. This is crazy. It's hard to imagine. A lot of Warriors don't want Titan's Grip in Vanilla WoW. That to some degree, it sort of ruins their class fantasy of how a Warrior should be played. I've seen a lot of Warriors that do not want it.
Communities inside the raid, if you can bleed stuff, you're gonna be playing arms. So it turns out there's currently a different version of Deep Wounds in the game compared to the vanilla reference client, and it's interacting in ways which it usually doesn't, such as stacking its damage instead of refreshing, and applying from offhands. This buff, and it is a buff, is playing a decent part in the Warrior's performance in BFD, and as long as this version of Deep Wounds exists, I can only see it getting stronger, and that Warriors will continue to build around it. It may be somewhat similar to the TBC version of Warriors, where you played arms, but you still dual-wielded instead of going two-handed. It's a bit more counterintuitive, but hey, more damage is more damage. And that is everything I have for today. One thing for each class that, given our current runes and the known abilities and talent switch coming at level 40, that we should have to look forwards to. Of course, the runes next phase are expected to be super impactful to gameplay, just as runes have been in phase 1. So whilst a ton is unknown about phase 2, we can still make some decent estimates for what will be possible. Let me know if there's any...
He pretty much just said this, but everything we talked about is contingent on what runes we get. You can theory craft all you want about the new spells and abilities and stuff. Okay, we know that stuff. These are known variables. The runes, they change everything.
Any builds that you have planned for next phase, and what abilities you're looking forwards to trying out the most in the comments down below. And, as always, thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I'll see you on the next one very soon.
Phase 2 is heating up. It's getting spicy. I feel like there's a lot of optimism. I feel like people are on the edge of their seat. People have been really enjoying Phase 1 of SOD, and I think even more people are excited for Phase 2. I personally think that Phase 2 has the potential to be maybe even the best phase. I think it's going to be Phase 2 or Phase 3. The 40 meta, maybe the 50 meta, maybe the 50 meta, but Phase 2 is going to be really good. Thank you for watching. Drop a like, subscribe, go down in the description of this video and find a link to WillE's channel. Go support WillE. Go drop a like on his video here, and let me know what you think while you're down there. Thank you for watching, and as always, stay safe.